First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. I'm glad that we were finally able to make this happen. We talked a little bit, and I'm glad to have the opportunity. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to get my story out there, to let people know. Like you said, it's going to be a little bit of a ride, so everybody hang in, um, grab a hold of your seat, get locked in. So I'm from the Antelope Valley. I'm from the city of Palmdale, which is in the northern part of LA County. For those that may not know where it's at, it's like if you were to come to Magic Mountain and keep coming up the 14th freeway a little bit, you hit Lancaster and Palmdale. So this is the area I grew up in, as I said, particularly in the city of Palmdale, East Palmdale. I was born in 1970, so I was a kid during the 70s. Became a teenager in the 80s. Back then, Palmdale was really small. If people think it's small and not a lot happening out here now, imagine back then. I grew up without my dad in my life. It was my mom, my younger brother, and I. My mom did remarry for a short period of time. I had a stepdad for a little bit. So I grew up just, in a middle class family, out here in the desert. Went to private school for the majority of my life. I went to Catholic school. I'm half Mexican and half white, but I was raised with, my mom and her family, the Mexican side of my family. So as most Latinos, I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, was average student, throughout elementary school and junior high. In my mom's marriage to my stepdad, I saw a lot of violence in the home, domestic violence, physical abuse, as well as verbal abuse. And that's where I really learned a lot of my values and beliefs. And I didn't know that then. I didn't know that until later on in life, that those things that I saw and heard were teaching me life lessons. So yeah, that was basically how elementary school and junior high was. Once it came time for high school, once I became a teenager, started going to high school, I started going to public school, no more private school. I started going to public school. I knew a lot of the people. I was already hanging around with a lot of the people. Anyway, I didn't really hang around with a lot of the people from the private school. The neighborhood where I grew up at, was all the people I was hanging around with. So, and back then there wasn't really gang activity going on out here. It really didn't start till like the mid to late 80s. So in the early 80s, we were into breakdancing. I used to get my little breakdance on, my little pop block. In the early 80s, we had our little crew, you know what I mean? And we used to battle other crews and all that kind of stuff. And then in the later part of the mid 80s and into the late 80s, that started transitioning. That's when gang activity really started popping out here. There were people that moved out here from the Valley and from LA, that kind of brought that style out here, and it started catching on a lot. But with me and what became my homies, my friends that ended up becoming my homeboys, our trip was kind of like, okay, we see a lot of people move, a lot of gente moving out here from other spots, but we're from out here. You know what I mean? This is our city. That's, the mentality we had was this is ours. So we started our own thing. We started our little neighborhood out here and started gang banging. I got into drugs, started using meth, became addicted to meth. That was my thing. I was a tweaker, you know what I mean? I got no problem admitting where I come from. I was a tweaker. I was on that stuff on a regular basis. So that was the lifestyle I was living as a teenager.
Um, I'm not familiar with the area other than the Magic Mountain and the mountain lands. You
Right.
know, uh, what was the name of the gang?
The neighborhood I used to be from was called Eastside Palmas, Palmas for Palmdale. That's the original Latino gang from the city of Palmdale. And then in Lancaster, they had a neighborhood called Lancas. And for, excuse me, for the longest, it was just us and them. And we were their main enemy. They were our main enemy. And that's all it was back then. As the 80s started going and into the 90s, a lot of people started moving out here from the city. You know what I mean? A lot of parents whose sons and daughters were getting in trouble in LA and in the Valley started moving them out here, thinking it was going to get them away from that type of lifestyle and away from the trouble. But all the same people were just congregating out here. So all kinds of neighborhoods from LA and from the Valley started popping up. there's chapters of gangs out here from East LA, from South LA, from the Valley, from all over, really. You know what I mean? And that's in the late 80s and early 90s is when it really started kicking off like that.
Yeah, but so obviously you joined Palmas eventually. Man, but there had to be something that something caught your eye, or the lifestyle, movies. What was the thing, man, that think attracted you, and then eventually, how did you make the decision to turn into that lifestyle?
Like I was saying earlier, a lot of the things I experienced at home developed my belief system. Let me give you a couple of examples. So, like watching my stepdad verbally abuse my mom, physically abuse my mom. At this time, I'm probably like 6, 7, 8 years old. And in my young mind, what that's teaching me is that that's how you deal with people when you get mad. When you get mad, you use violence to solve the problem. My stepdad was originally from Bakersfield. So we used to go out there to visit his family a lot. We used to go out there and visit his people. He was Mexican too. So all his nieces and nephews, which were my step cousins, were all Mexican. As I mentioned earlier, I'm half Mexican, half white. So they used to tease us a lot, pick on me and my brother. And a point came where I got tired of it. You know, I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm tired of getting picked on. And I can clearly remember an instance where they were messing with us, and I just reached back and fired on one of them, punched him as hard as I could in the face, busted his nose. But from there, they never bothered us again. Now the whole thing changed. Now they started respecting us and including us and treating us right. So again, in my young mind, I'm learning a life lesson that violence brings respect. You know what I mean? So I take those beliefs and those values into my teenage years. Again, I grew up without my dad. My mom ended up divorcing my stepdad, so I don't have no father figure in my life. So the people that became my homeboys, I was looking up to them. I was looking for that male acceptance in my life. You know what I mean? In my young mind, okay, my dad left, my stepdad left. What's wrong with me? How come? What is it about me that people are leaving? So now I got these friends that are showing me love. I got these friends that are embracing me, and so I liked that. I wanted that. You know what I mean? I started to feel loved by them. So it made it easy for me to do what they do. When we transitioned from breakdancing into gangbanging, and these friends went into that life, my fear was, oh man, I better go with them, or here I am again without nobody caring about me. You know, now that I'm older, now that I'm at the point in my life where I am, I understand I had people that cared about me. I had my mom, I had other family. There was people in the community that I could have sought that role modelship from. But when I was young, I wasn't thinking like that. You know, I just wanted to keep my friends. I didn't want to lose my friends. So I was down to do whatever they did. You know what I mean? I wanted to do whatever they did. So once that started happening, and then, you know, the pride thing, as I said, I'm already now, by this time I'm a teenager. Got this little chip on my shoulder because I'm a half-breed from this little tiny city. We got people moving out here from LA and from the Valley that think they're crazier than us and more down than us and all that kind of stuff because they're from the city. So I got this chip on my shoulder of, oh, is that right? I'm going to show you. I'm just as down as you. I'm just as Mexican as you. And then all that together just made it real easy to jump into that lifestyle. And
What
yeah,
year
there was, go ahead.
What year we talking?
Like in the late 80s, like 88, 89, 87, 80, 89, around there.
Yeah, man. Please keep going, man.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Life in high school.
Yeah. Now we're doing that, right? I had a girlfriend in high school, my high school sweetheart. I ended up getting her pregnant. So I dropped out of school to get a job. I was working at Burger King. She had our son. We got married. So now here I am. I'm 18 years old. I have a wife. I have a son that I'm responsible for. But I'm into meth. I'm running the streets. So I really wanted to try to change that. At that time in my life, I was like, okay, I need to do something. I don't want my son to experience life the way I did. So I wanted to try to get myself together. So I joined the military. I went to the Marines. I applied for the Marines. They wouldn't take me because I was a high school dropout. Air Force, same thing. Army, same thing. The Navy was the only one willing to take me without a high school diploma, but I had to score higher on the entrance exam than a high school graduate did, which I was able to do. So I ended up going in the Navy. But I was young, bro. I was 18. I was young-minded. I was still in that street mentality. So I was getting in trouble in the military. I was going out to clubs, getting in fights, drinking, still using meth. So after a year and a half, I got kicked out. Got kicked out of the military. My wife and I were in the process of divorce already. She had already moved back home. I was still out there in San Diego. And then they kicked me out, and I came back out here to the Antelope Valley. So now here I am out here, in my mind, like viewing myself as a failure. You know what I mean? Got kicked out of the military. My marriage is in shambles. I'm not being a good father to my son. So I turned back to what I knew. Went back to the streets. Started partying again, hanging out with the homies, carrying a strap, and was back fully immersed in that lifestyle.
Man, keep going, please.
Yeah, so I was back out here living at my mom's, not working, running around with the fellas, tweaking, all that. I hooked up with some friends, a particular partner that he used to sling meth. He was a dope dealer. So I'm kicking it with him. He had his own little pad. Me and the girl that I was messing with at the time, we moved in with him and his girl. So now I'm kind of like his security, I guess you could say, when he goes out and does deals, because he was selling, big stuff. When he goes out and does deals, I go with him just to make sure nothing goes wrong. And in the process of doing that, he's got me carrying around a knife. Oh, a pocket knife was our protection, right? So in the process of doing that, I told him we need guns. You know what I mean? We need guns. If I'm gonna be doing this, helping you, we need to be strapped. So he ended up getting some guns. So now I got guns with us. So we're living there at that little spot out here in Lancaster, and we had some roommates. He's a dope dealer, so there's always people around. The pad always has people. So there were some people there kicking it, some girls that became our roommates. They lived there with us too, and we're all tweakers. We're all using dope. So one particular night, these girls asked me for a ride to. So I got to kind of tell you how, at that time out here, this is 1991. So out here, there weren't like clubs for people to go to. So the thing out here was house parties, and people used to hang out in the parking lots of like fast food places. So, and I know it's going to sound funny to people that never experienced it, but so the Taco Bell parking lot on Friday and Saturday night would be packed out with like 150, 200 people drinking, bumping music, getting high, doing whatever. So that was kind of the scene, right? And at that time, my wife and I were already in the process of divorce. So we had an understanding that every other weekend we would trade off with my son, right? So one weekend she would have him, the next weekend I would have him, this weekend she had him. So this particular weekend was my weekend with my son. So I picked my son up. I'm there at the pad kicking it. My roommates are there. And now they want to ride. They want to ride to the Taco Bell. They're like, hey, we're going to go hang out at the Taco Bell. Can you give us a ride? And at first, my instinct was like, nah, I got my son. I'm cool. But then, of course, my immaturity started kicking in. I'm thinking like, man, if they're going to see me as a weenie, you know what I mean? If I don't give them a ride, the honest truth is there goes my chance of ever sleeping with him. You know what I mean? And in my young mentality and my immaturity, that lifestyle I was living, that's what my thought process was.
Can I break in really quick?
Absolutely.
Just this is 1991.
Yeah, 1991.
I just want to share with like the people watching that, for those of you who don't know, Southern California, 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94. Man, those were just years in Southern California that it was a murder. It was mafia. I mean, it was just everything. SoCal was a bloodbath. So I just want to share that set the stage that it's made comebacks, but never like that time, man. That was a crazy time in SoCal. So go ahead.
And especially out here in the Antelope Valley, because there was an influx of people, like I said, moving out here from LA, moving out here from the Valley. A lot of us that are from out here, we're like in our late teens now, early 20s. So we're really like trying to defend our territory and all that kind of stuff. So it was active out here. You know what I mean? I give in. I tell the girls, okay, you know what? I'll take you. So I didn't want to take my son with me because I already know what's popping over there. I know I'm liable to run into some enemies or who knows what. So I wanted to take my son back to his mom's. And the first mistake I made, obviously, was making the choice to go, because I was supposed to be being a father. I should have stayed there with my son. So the first mistake I made was being willing to take them. The second mistake I made was bringing a gun with me. I had my own personal policy that when I have my son with me, I don't take my strap nowhere. But this time I knew where I was going. I knew I was liable to run into some cats. So boom, I bring my little strap with me. We jump in the car, take my son to his mom. She's tripping, like, it's your weekend. What are you doing? I tell her, don't worry, I'll be back. I'm just going to go drop them off and I'll be back. So, okay, cool. So she takes her son in. We take off. So we're en route to this Taco Bell where I'm going to go drop them off at. As we're going, I pass this particular liquor store, and a carload of my homeboys is right there, and they flag me down. They see me going, so they flag me down. So I pull into the liquor store, hop out. They're all like, what's up? What are you guys doing? And the females jump out. Oh, we're just going to the Taco Bell. And one of my homies tells me, hey, they're having a house party over here on such and such. He tells me the address, right? So I'm like, nah, I'm just giving them a ride, and I got to go back and get my son. Well, when the girls hear party, oh, party, let's go. Take us to the party instead. So, all right, here we go now. So I'm like, all right, let's go to the party. I'll go stay for like an hour, and then I got to bounce. So we go. We head to the party. We get there. Probably like about 50, 60 people there. They got DJ, kegs of beer, basic house party back in the days. You know what I mean? So we're there. We're dancing. We're kicking it. It's all Latinos, all gang members, just doing what we do, partying, having a good time. A carload of white boys shows up. 3 white boys and a couple girls are with them. And initially, nobody's tripping. They ain't causing no problems. So they're just there. So they knew somebody there. They got invited. So they come in. Turns out they're selling acid, right? So, people are doing acid. People are buying acid from them. One of my homies buys some acid from them, kicks everybody down. So we all drop acid. We're drinking. And at some point through the party, one of my homies decides he wants to jack him. I guess he's seen the dude's money or whatever. So he decides he wants to jack him. So we're like, okay, cool, do your thing. And I hope I don't offend anybody, any of the viewers, because I'm not a racist person. But at the time, my mentality at the time, we were thinking, these are just some white boys. They ain't going to fight back. This is going to be easy. We don't even need to go with you. You just go do your thing. So the homie goes out there with him. He goes outside. I'm dancing with some girls. And the next thing I know, one of the other homies comes running in, and he grabs me, and he's like, hey, fool, they're outside fighting. What? So we run out there. I see the homie that was going to jack these cats. He's got one of them on the ground, and he's stabbing them. And his friends are yelling, leave him alone, leave him alone. He don't got nothing. I'm faded, bro. I'm going to be, 100. I'm drunk. I did acid. I'm toe up. So them yelling is like irritating me. So, hey, shut up. Why don't you guys mind your business? No, leave him alone. Leave him alone. I pull out my gun, and I tell the dude, like, well, if he don't have it, then you must have it. You know what I mean? I pull my gun at the dude. I'm like, so you break yourself. I don't got nothing. Homeboy drops to his knees, and he's like, please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. My homeboy starts socking him out. So I put the strap away, and, so now we're fighting with these dudes, right? One of their other friends, big dude, like 6 foot something, grabs me by the neck and pins me up against the wall of this house. So even though I'm faded, that kind of like woke me up, like, whoa. And he's reaching in his waistband. So in my mind, he's about to blast me. You know what I mean? I'm thinking it's over with. He's about to kill me. So that kind of not sobered me up, but kind of like, you know what I mean? Made me like, whoa, what the heck? So I pushed homeboy off me and pulled my strap out. Now we're probably about maybe 4 or 5 feet from each other. And I got the gun pointed at him. And it's almost like a movie where there's like a standoff. I got the gun pointing at him. He's got his hand in his waistband, and we're just looking at each other. And everything was like slow motion. The other fight is still going on around us, but our focus is on each other. And he took a step towards me and started pulling whatever he had in his waistband out. In my mind, he has a gun. I already had my gun out, so I shoot him 3 times in the stomach. I had a little 25. Pa, pa, pa. I shoot him in the stomach. He grabs his stomach, he turns around, he starts running. Now in my head, I'm like, now I'm mad. Oh, you done made me shoot you, and now you're gonna run. You know what I mean? So I keep unloading the little clip. Click, click, click. Nothing left. I'm shooting him as he's running away. Now I hear more shots. So I'm thinking he's shooting back. So I'm like, dang. So I'm, kind of tripping, but I realize the shots are coming from behind me. One of my other homies has shot at him too. So by this time, we're at a house party. Someone starts shooting. It's chaos, bro. People are running, screaming. People are just running everywhere. My homies grab me. We jump in the car and we go. About a week later, I hear the cops are looking for me. So I think I'm on the run, but I'm not going nowhere far. I'm just like, I go to my mom's. I go here, I go there. And everywhere I go, someone's telling them where I'm at because they end up pulling up right after I leave. Here they come. And I get a call. Hey, they were just here looking for you. And I get to the next spot. Hey, they were just here looking for you. Excuse me. So I ended up taking off to Roseman, which is it's Kern County, but it's only like 20 minutes from right here from Lancaster. So I go to somebody's pad in Roseman, and I think I'm hiding out. And a couple of days later, this is now a week from the time that the shooting occurred. So I think I'm hiding out, and early in the morning, there's that knock. Boom, 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 boom. You know, the police knock. And I'm in bed with my girl, so I'm just like, dang, they got me. You know what I mean? So I tell her, get the door. She gets up, opens the door. Boom, here they come. Shotguns out. It's Kern County Sheriffs, but they got some of the LA County Sheriff gang unit with them. They come. We got a warrant for your arrest. They gaffle me up, take me. It actually turns out that they arrested me on an old traffic warrant. They didn't have enough to charge me yet, but they wanted to hold me while they conducted their investigation. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting busted. They held me on a warrant. I actually ended up admitting to it, bro. A couple of days later, they started arresting my crimies. There was 5 of us all together involved in the incident.
I don't know if you said this. I don't remember. Is the Vato alive?
No, he died.
He died. He died.
Yeah, he died on the scene. I read about it in the paper the next day. So he died on the scene. His friend was stabbed, and his other friend was beat up. So two guys survived the incident, and 1 guy died.
Can I tell you? Can I ask you something before you go on?
Of course.
And I know, don't get me right. You know, if I ever ask you a question and you don't feel comfortable, don't.
Oh no, I'm good, bro.
I'm just saying. At that time, like I know where you're at now, right. And I know the healing that goes on in the mind.
Right.
But at that time, the first time taking somebody's life, like, did you even trip? Like, was it just like whatever, or what was your mindset?
My mindset was that's what he gets for getting in something that wasn't his business. You know what I mean? And like you said, I'm not that person today. And today, we'll talk later more about that. But at the time, it was like, whatever, that's what you get. You should have minded your business. You know what I mean? So now at this time, I'm arrested. A couple of days later, people were telling on me, bro. In my police reports, they were getting anonymous phone calls. People were giving me up, giving my crimies up. So they were little by little arresting all of us. There ended up being 5 of us that were involved in the incident and 5 of us that were arrested. So when we're in the substation and they're interviewing us, they're pulling us out one by one. I'm the first one they pull out, the homicide detectives. And I ended up giving it up. I'm like, I did it. Cut all these guys loose. It was me. All right, cool. They pull in the next one. All of us are doing the same thing. I did it, let them go. I did it, let them go. This is the 90s. It's not like today where everybody's like, he did it, let me go. Back then it was, I did it, let them go. Everybody, I did it, let them go. So they were like, oh, okay, you did it, cool. Okay, you are. So all of us now are admitting to being involved. So we all get charged. We start going through the court process. They want to charge us with the death penalty. They wanted to set an example, bro. That was like one of the first what they considered gang-related murders out here in the Antelope Valley. It was a white guy that got killed. It was some Mexicans that did it. So they were throwing the book at us. It was a murder committed during the course of a robbery, so it qualified for the death penalty. So that's what they were trying to come at me with, the death penalty. And the deal they offered me was 25 to life. 25 to life for the murder, 5 years for the gun. And I ended up taking the deal. I'd never been to prison before, bro. This was my first time getting busted for something serious. I'd been in and out of the county a few times. Never really did more than 6 months. Never really faced no major charges. Never got caught for nothing. So when I'm talking to my public defender, and it's cool too because the public defender, the first day I meet him, he's like, "You know, you did it. I know you did it. Everybody knows you did it." Which of course I did because I admitted to it. But he didn't want to try to help me at all, bro. He was like, "You should just take this deal. They want to give you the death penalty." So I
That
was like, "All
sounds
right,
about right,
go ahead."
bro. That sounds
That's
about public defenders in the 90s.
That's how they do.
Yeah.
So I was like, "All right, cool. Let me come back in a week and I'll let you know." And he's like, "Nope, they want to know right now. The deal's only on the table today." So I was like, "Okay, I hear you. Let me go out into the courtroom and talk to my family, see what they think." Nope, they want an answer right now. So I'm like, "Dang, I'm in the holding tank. There's nobody else there but my crime mate." He's been to the joint before. He had been to prison before. So I looked at him and like, "What you gonna do, fool?" He's like, "F the death penalty. I'm taking the deal." So I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's roll." So I took the deal. About a week later, we came back to get sentenced, and I got sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, 25 to life for the murder, 5 years for the gun.
Wow, bro. So
At 21 years old, bro. At 21 years old, I get sentenced to 30 to life.
did you sign the papers right there that day?
And what's so crazy, we didn't even sign papers. We tried to appeal it later on based on that, tried to get my guilty plea withdrawn. Because that's a whole nother story in itself, is that day when we went back to the county and the homies were like, "You know, what happened?" And I told them I took a deal for 25 to life. They were like, "What? You don't even got no first degree murder. At best, it's a second degree. This is what you need to do, withdraw your plea, blah, blah, blah." And I didn't know, bro. You know what I mean? I didn't have no extensive experience with the legal system. I didn't know no better. But we ended up trying to file an appeal and trying to withdraw the plea, and wasn't nothing happening. So we went on and got sentenced and caught the chain onto it. At then, it was Wasco, it was brand new reception center. We were actually the first bus from LA County to go open up Wasco Reception Center. When we left Wayside, we were on the bus. Everybody was asking, "Where are we going?" Because we're going the wrong way. Everybody's expecting to go to Chino.
Right.
We're going the opposite way. So everybody's tripping like, "Hey, driver, where are we going? Where are we going?" "Wasco, where the heck is that? New reception center just opened up. You guys are the first." And boom, so there we go to Wasco.
Man, bro. Yeah. Chino was the place at the time, but they were transitioning, man.
Right.
So you're heading up, and then was Wasco just reception?
They, if I remember correctly, because that's a long time ago, they had the reception side, and then they also had a 3-yard. They had a GP 3-yard also, if I remember correctly.
Did they? Is that where you started doing your time, or was it somewhere else?
No. I just went strictly to the reception center right there. Was in the reception center for about 60 days or so, and then ended up getting sent to Tehachapi. That was my first main line.
Cool. Did they have you level 3 or 4?
No, level 4. I was level 4, bro. Yeah.
I'm lifers level 4 right away.
Yeah, off the
Man,
top.
so tell us about it, bro. So, obviously reception, it sucks because you don't got a lot of stuff and you're just getting by waiting for where you're gonna go. Now, a couple of questions within this. Did your crimies go with you? And 2, tell us about your thoughts entering Tehachapi level 4, man.
So one of my crimies went with me, the one that I had asked what he was going to do, and he said he was taking the deal. He and I were the only ones over 18. Our other crimies were teenagers. They were 17. So they were fighting their case from juvenile hall while we were in the county. And they ended up taking deals for life as well. So out of the 5 of us, 4 of us got life. The youngest one, his family was well off. They had money. They hired him an actual lawyer. He was able to get a manslaughter deal.
Wow.
Yeah, he was able to get a manslaughter deal that took 7 years. He did 4 in YA and went home. So he was home in 95.
Did any of your crimies, even though you admitted to it, did any of them roll on you?
No, that was back then, bro. Everybody stayed solid. You know what I mean?
Different time.
Yeah, different time. Everybody held their mud and went about their business. You know what I mean? So my one crimey, his name was Bullet. Bullet and I ended up we caught the chain the same day. Went to Wasco reception together. He was the one that kind of gave me the game. Like, look, you're from the AV. There's not really a AV car, so you're gonna be with the guys from the Valle. Because that's the next closest area to us. He kind of like ran me down, you know what I mean? What to buy. My first time to the canteen, I had no clue. He was like, look, get coffee, tobacco, soups. He laced me up, you know what I mean? on all the stuff to get and kind of help me adjust. Like I said, we were there about 60 days or so. And we ended up getting sent to Tehachapi, both of us. So we go to Tehachapi, and which is close for me being from out here from the Antelope Valley. It's like 45 minutes away, hour away. So it was cool right there. I was getting visits. I was still in a mindset that I was going to win my appeal. I'm going to still be home at some point. And in my head, I was like, I'm going to win my appeal. I'm going to go back to court. I'm going to get this life sentence taken off me. I'll get a few years and I'll be home. I wasn't really tripping. The gente around me were more realistic about it. They were like, look, bro, you got life. You're never going home. Get that out of your head. You need to adjust to in here, because if your mind is not focused, you're going to end up getting killed. And that's how I started living. You know what I mean? I started living with that mindset that there was it. There was no hope. Maybe in the initial, maybe up to my first 5 years, bro, in that adjustment period. That's about for a lifer. I'd say that's like the adjustment period. It takes the first 5 years for it to really kick in that you got life. And at that time, ain't nobody going home. And this is just it. You know what I mean? So during those first few years, I still had that little seed of hope in the back of my mind, but was trying not to let it really dominate my thoughts. And of course, my family, my mom especially, her thing was always, when you come home, when you come home, when you come home. And it was like, Mom, I'm not coming home. We ended up losing the appeal, and we would file another one. We ended up filing like 3 different types of appeals. Of course, lost them all. So there I was, bro, doing my little thing, lifting weights, playing handball.
Was Tehachapi at that time? Because I know about that time. There were some heavy hitters there, at least in the hole.
Right.
At that time, was it a strictly Southerner place, or was it mixed?
It was mixed. There were Northern raza there. There were blacks, Southern homies, whites. Everybody had their little area. Everybody had their little part of the weight pile, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was going on right there a little bit. I ended up from there going to Ironwood to level 3. It opened up brand new in 1994. So I went and opened up Ironwood. So going to level 3 was a trip. In Tehachapi, it was cell living. Ironwood got there, same thing, cell living, a little bit smaller cells than the level 4 180 style design. But yeah, so I'm right there doing my little level 3 time. Same, handball, weights, enjoying a little more freedom than on the level 4, And I was there for about 2 months. And anybody that's done time knows when a new joint opens up, the first couple of years is rocking. You know what I mean? There's things going on. The different razas are fighting for territory, and this is our basketball courts, and these are our bleachers, and this and that. And of course, that was happening right there. So a decision was made that we were going to go at it with the blacks. Something had happened, and there was a little skirmish in the dining hall. So the dude that had the yard at the time made the determination that, okay, you know what I mean, it's on. So, and there wasn't a lot of lifers there yet. There was just a handful of us. The number of lifers there was so small that the administration actually put us all on one tier and let us have our own cell. We didn't have to have a cellie.
Nice.
So yeah, so that didn't last long though, because as more buses kept coming, it got filled up.
Yeah.
But so the dude that had the yard, the dude that had the llaves, got all the lifers first. Like, look, you guys are lifers. You guys got a gang of time to do. So we want you guys to set it off. You know what I mean? Everybody needs to be strapped, and you guys are going to do your thing. So being the young dummy I was like, all right, cool. It's time, it's that time. You know what I mean? Time to roll, whatever. So they had set a certain day for when it was going to happen. We got strapped up. Everybody got strapped up. The first wave of people that were going to kick it off got strapped up. And for some reason, they put it on hold, right? We get word, hey, wait, we're going to go to first draw, get our canteen, and then get ready to go. Because we're going to go on a long lockdown. They want to get prepared. And what's crazy, bro, is that happened like 3 times. Wait, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. By this time, everybody knew what was happening. Somebody dropped a kite. They rush up in my cell. We, like, all the cells on the tier that were packed, we all got hit the same day. Who does come running in, ran up in our cells. They found 2 knives in my mattress. So there I go to the hole. My first time going to the hole right there in Ironwood on a 3-yard. And I don't stay there long. I get endorsed to Corcoran Shoe fairly quickly. And I end up going to Corcoran. And this is 1994. So I get there to Corcoran, and what I'm walking into is the tail end of the Gladiator fight scandal. The feds were already investigating, but it was still going on. Not as much as it was, in the late 80s and like 91, 92. Right. But 94 was still happening a little bit. So I caught the tail end of that. I did a year right there in the shoe, got our door popped like that. So I'm in 4A, 2 left. That's where I did both of my shoe terms at. And so try to describe how, if you walk in the section door, all the cells are just right in front of you. It doesn't come around. It's just flat. And there's 5 cells on the top in a shower, and then 5 cells. On the bottom, 5 cells in a shower and 5 cells. At that time, the way they ran the yard was who's ever in those 5 cells, that's your yard group. There was no separation. There was no cages. It was just whoever's in those 5 cells goes to yard together. It could be all blacks and you, that's your yard. It could be all homies and one northerner. It didn't matter. Whoever's in the 5 cells, that's yard. So it happened. I got blessed that I ended up in a cool little yard group where there was no drama. But on the next yard group, there was they were Arabic. They were Arabs, like from the Middle East type Arabs, but they ran with the Norteños. And they used to give the Hudas a lot of problems. So one day when they give the call, turn your lights on for yard, and the Hudas walking the tier going to all of our cells. You guys want yard? Yeah, okay, get ready. You guys want yard? Yeah. You couldn't refuse yard back then. You had to go mandatory yard. So they come, we all want yard. But then he goes to the other yard group. It's not even part of our yard, and we can hear him because the doors in Corcoran, they have holes. It's honeycomb, what we call honeycomb. So you can hear everything. You can hear conversations on the tier, all that. So we hear them ask somebody, hey, do you want to go to yard? And they're like, huh? Do you want to go to yard? Yeah, okay, turn your lights on. So the homie gets in our van. He's like, hey, who was that? We're like, we don't know. We're about to find out. So they took them out first, and it was them dudes. So the homies get in our van. They're like, hey, you guys know what's up, right? And we're like, yeah. You going to wait for us? Nope, don't even worry about it. Me and my celly, we tell the homies, don't even worry about it. We got it. So to make a long story short, we go out there to the yard, and we get into it with these dudes. We box. My celly runs at one. I run at the other one. We start boxing. The fool pulls out the Mini 14. Get down, get down. So everybody's like, gun, fool, gun. So I hear it. He chambers around, bro. And in the Corcoran Shoe yard, it's a small little concrete yard. So that thing is loud. The echo from when he chambered the round, you could just hear it. Clack, clack. And it's like everything goes in slow motion. So I'm on the ground. Everybody's laid out. And the dude that I was boxing with jumps up and starts running at my celly. So I jump up and I run to go cut him off. He lays back down. So now I'm the only dummy, bro, standing up in the middle of the yard. This fool guns the Mini pointed out. He's screaming at me, get down, get down. Everybody's saying, get down, fool, get down. In my head, I'm like, it's a wrap. They're about to kill me. So I look around and I see the dude my celly was fighting. So I kicked him hard as I could in the face. Bah! I got, at that time, the issue of shoes was the karate shoes. Remember those OG karate shoes? So I kicked this dude in the face with these karate shoes, and it breaks my toe.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, I grab my toe, and I lay down, and people are laughing, and the cops are tripping. But anyway, so that was my little Corcoran Shoe experience.
Yeah.
I did like a year right there.
What was funny is I was there at that time, too.
Yeah.
I drove from Corcoran at 95. But I didn't leave level 4 till I left level 4 about 93 to the level 3 yards.
Right.
So, but nonetheless, man. So I know that time. That means you were there with Manson. You were there. I mean, when he was there, Sirhan was there.
Right. Yeah.
Joe Morgan was there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Go on, please, man. Go on.
And like I said, this is during the time when the Gladiator fight scandal was going. So people that don't really know about it, the cops were setting up fights, which is what they did with us. These dudes were not even part of our yard group. They should not have been on our yard. But they were always giving the Hudas problems, so the Huda didn't like them, so they set them up to get into it. And what was so crazy, after they cleared the yard, they brought us back to our cell, right? They put me and my celly back in our cell. A little while later, one of the cops comes. He opens our tray slot and he has 2 bags and he puts them on the tray slot and he walks away. So I jumped up and I go over there and I get the bags. One of the bags has brand new tennis shoes, 2 pair, one for my celly, one for me, and the other bag is full of coffee. So basically, they like rewarded us for handling these dudes. You know what I mean? And that was, like I said, that was at the tail end. The feds were already investigating, so it wasn't nearly as bad as what a lot of other people experienced right there. But that was my little Corcoran shoe experience. I did my little year shoe term right there, and then got kicked out right there to Corcoran Mainline. And everybody on that yard was shoe kickouts. So of course it's popping. You know, wheelers are coming from the back, like you said. There's people back there that have say so. So wheelers are coming out about this dude has to go, this dude has to go. Then of course there's other races. There's Northern Raza on the yard too. So it was just buck wild, bro. And I'm at the time I'm young still, doing life, not caring, trying to build earn my little stripes. So I'm fully immersed in the nonsense. And so yeah, that was it, bro. Not too long after that is when they came up with they started building 180 design prisons, level 4s, High Desert, Salinas Valley. A lot of these new institutions started popping up, and they were sending anybody that was what they considered a shoe kickout, meaning you had done a shoe term within the last 3 years. They started sending us out to these other prisons. So I ended up getting shipped to High Desert, another brand new institution again. Here we go. Hours on the bus, bro. Hours on the bus. For people that don't know where High Desert is, it's up near Susanville, way northern California, in the mountains and forests where you can't even drive straight through. The CDC bus actually has to leave California, go into Reno, and then come back in because you can't get through the forest like that. So I ended up going to High Desert. And at that time, they still did hardship transfers. You were able, if you could prove that it was a hardship to your people to come see you, they would supposedly try to help you out and move you closer. So I was there in High Desert for like about 6 months, and my mom was on heart medication, and that's a long drive, bro. It was like she couldn't make it in one day. It wasn't more than a one-day drive. So her doctor wrote her a note saying that she couldn't drive that far on her medication. They ended up taking me to committee, and they were like, okay, we'll help you out. They sent me to Salinas Valley, which is not all that much closer, but it's a little bit. So anyway, I end up in Salinas Valley, again, brand new prison, same old stuff jumping off. I end up going to the shoe again. I end up getting involved in a stabbing. So there I go back to the shoe again. Now my second shoe term. My celly, it was his first time going to the shoe, so they gave him a little bit of a break. They gave him a 1-year shoe. They doubled me up this time. So this time they gave me a 2-year shoe term. So there I go, back to Corcoran shoe, straight back to the same spot, 4A, 2 left. There I go. And it's crazy because when I get there, I had been there for maybe a week or 2, and I'm on the door just scoping things out, listening to what's going on and stuff. And the Huda happened to be coming down the tier. And he sees me and he stops and he goes, hey, weren't you here recently? And I'm like, yeah, but at the time, let me see, this is like 96, 97. So I'm like 20, 27, 28 years old. So I still have that young mentality, right? So when he tells me, hey, weren't you just here? Me, I get like all like, yeah, that's right, I'm back. Thinking that it was cool, thinking it was something to be proud of, you know what I mean? And he looks at me and he just shakes his head and is like, you don't get it, do you? I was like, what you talking about? And he just left. And at the time, I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Later on in life, later on when I started going to the board and stuff like that, that came back to my memory. But yeah, so there I was living that same lifestyle, doing what we do. Did my little 2-year shoe term right there in Corcoran, and I get kicked out to New Folsom. Ended up going to New Folsom, 1999. Same thing again, shoe kickout yard. So the whole yard is knuckleheads. Everybody that's recently kicked out of the shoe, everybody that's involved, you know what I mean? So there I am.
Crazy, you know what I noticed about, because we're kind of doing time at the same time, except I stopped at 95. You kept going, unfortunately. But so you kind of, this is what I saw during that time, in the county jails, like there was a lot more little frivolous games, little
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And what I've seen, what I got to see is there was a lot more. Let's say I know you weren't there in the late '80s, but the late '80s, the '90s, there was a lot more respect. There was a lot more respecting the whites. There was
Right.
whites and Southern. So you got to see everything flip, and the county jail games come to the prison.
Right.
That's
Right.
insane. So that must have been crazy, bro. I
Yeah,
can't
that was a
imagine
trip.
going from a respect to little games and, oh, you're gonna get stabbed 3 times or stabbed in the butt for or something like that. It's like, wow, bro.
Some of the ridiculous stuff, bro. Yeah, it was crazy because. So let me jump back to
Yeah.
my upbringing a little bit. So out here in the Antelope Valley, at the time that I was a kid and a teenager, there weren't a lot of blacks and there weren't a lot of Mexicans. So we kicked it together because out here at that time, it was very racial with the whites. They had like real life KKK out here back then. The skinheads weren't out here yet. They had Palmdale Peckerwoods. They had some KKK out here. So we used to, it was real racial out here. Before really any gang stuff started, there was racial stuff going on out here big time. So the little amount of Mexicans that there was and a little amount of blacks, we kicked it together and we would get into it with the whites. So that's what I was used to. Then I get to prison and I'm not allowed to do that. Now it's a whole new trip. Now you're allowed to function with the whites, but you can't function with the blacks. And that kind of threw me off, you know what I mean? But like you said, that's what it was at that time, and that's where all the respect came in and all that. By the time now we're at my story of me being in Folsom in like 99, 2000, now I'm starting to see more that where homies and whites are starting to get into it. There's being little issues and stuff is happening. And of course, yeah, there was still stuff going on with the blacks, but it wasn't like there was just this animosity, you know what I mean? Like in years past. Now it's more like, okay, there was, especially in New Folsom, this was out of all the prisons I've been to, New Folsom was the most violent and most strict on like you having boundaries on the yard. There was areas on the yard that belonged to the blacks, and you better not go over there if you're not black. There was areas that belonged to the homies from down south, and you better not go over there if you're not from, you know what I mean? And people like, there were serious consequences if you stepped into territory that wasn't yours. And that really was out of respect and for everybody's own safety. You know what I mean? There'd be no issues. But it was at that time that, like you said, there was a lot of changes. You started seeing a different type of character coming to prison, different caliber of people were coming, and things were just getting out of control. You know what I mean? So I was right there in New Folsom for like 4 years. And I had stayed clean. Luckily I had been able to avoid getting caught up in anything during those 4 years. So they decided to transfer me from a 180 design to a 270. So they were going to send me back to Tehachapi, which for me, that's like, man, that's cool because it's close to home. Mm-hmm. I hadn't been that close to home in years. My poor mom was driving up and down the state, visiting me, these long distance drives. I'm very thankful that she was able to, and that she was bringing my son so that he got to know me a little bit. As my brother started having kids, she was bringing my nieces and nephews, driving them to Folsom, driving them to Salinas Valley, all that, to get to know me and all that. So I ended up going back to Tehachapi. But then they decided, which, as you know, they do all the time. They'll close yards and open yards and flip them and this and that. So people are constantly getting moved, bro. So I stayed right there in Tehachapi for a couple of months, and they decided they were going to flip it. So they sent us all to Corcoran. So I go back to Corcoran mainline. This is now like 2002, 2003. And it's, back to the same old stuff. By this time I'm a little older. I'm not as much, me. I'm just kind of like, okay, if you need me, I'm here, but otherwise I'm cool kind of mentality, you know what I mean? Trying to stay on the main line a little bit. And what really happened, bro, that time, that second shoot term I did, like I said, that one CO, telling me that you don't get it. And then when I went to committee, they were like, okay, you're back for your second shoot term, and all the stuff they got to read off and all that. And they told me, bro, okay, this is your second time. If we see you a third time back here, this is going to become your permanent residence. they were threatening me with an indeterminate shoe. You know what I mean? So that too started sinking into my head a little bit. Like, dang, you know what's going on right here? And I didn't want to get stuck back there permanently. You know, there was dudes that were in the shoe for 20 years. You know what I mean? 15, 20 years, some longer. Some are still back there. I didn't want to end up being like that. So
About what year we talking?
well, when they told me that in the shoe, this was like 98, 99. You know what I mean? And like I said, it was my second time going to Corcoran Shoe. So they already knew my face. They knew my file. And they were like, if we see you again, it's going to be your permanent residence. So then I ended up going to Folsom and getting sent to Tehachapi. Now I'm back in Corcoran. So like I said, I'm just kind of, you know, I'm there. I'm programming, doing what we do, lockdowns, all that other kind of stuff. Was there for a couple of years, and finally my points were able dropped back down to level 3 after all those years, like 14 years on level 4. My points finally dropped down back to level 3 points. Guess where I go? Ironwood again. They sent me down there to the desert in Blythe, 120-degree summers, no shade, mandatory yard, you know what I mean? All that good stuff. So there I go to Ironwood. This is 2005 now. Get to Ironwood, and it's the same thing. I'm a little older now. Now I'm in my 30s. I'm like 35 years old. Still, you know, still in GP, still with the fellas, doing what
I
I
gotta
do.
ask you this, bro.
Go ahead.
Okay, man. You know, when the summertime hit, I don't know. I mean, I don't know because I've never done time. I did most of my time in older prisons. I
Right.
love those. I hate Corcoran, bro. Worst prison I ever been to. But man, AC or no in the building?
So in some of the older prisons, it was swamp coolers. In Ironwood, it was AC, because it was more of a modern prison. And they know out there in Blythe it gets super hot, so they did have air conditioners. Excuse me.
Any
They didn't always work great, and the power went out a lot. Because down there, for anybody that's familiar with that area down there, Blythe, Palm Springs, down there, it's by the Arizona border, and it's down south. So they have monsoons down there. Then when those monsoons come, they be knocking the power out. So everything's just boom, just shuts it down, and you're just laying there. It's hot. There's the vent's not blowing no more. Your TV's off. Everything. It's all bad.
Man, I remember I've been in Arizona for some of those monsoons, not in jail, but just out. You sweat like an animal. But
all bad.
okay, before we go on with the story, this is my own little thing. I get to ask the questions because I'm the host, right?
Right.
Scorpions, lizards, anything?
Scorpions, tarantulas, especially when I first opened Ironwood in '94, because it was fresh. They had just recently built it, so the ground had just recently gotten messed with. There were scorpions on the yard, tarantulas. People used to catch them and fight them. You'd see people in the yard holding a shoebox and a little crowd around them and be like, what the heck? You go over there and you look, and they got a scorpion and a tarantula in the box. And people would bet, and then they shake the box, and they start going at it. The scorpion's stinging the tarantula, and the tarantula's jumping on the scorpion. And so it was like a little blood sport thing they had with those. It's crazy too. A little funny story. This happened the second time I went to Ironwood in 2005. So when you get to R&R, you know, you got the Huda that's taking everybody off the bus. They get you in R&R, and they give you like a little pep talk. So he's like telling everybody, you know, who's been here before? And I raised my hand. A lot of guys, it was the first time. He's like, okay, so I just want to warn you guys, we have snakes here, we have tarantulas, we have scorpions, we have matter daddies. And of course, there's going to be one dude in the group. What's the matter, daddy? The Huda says, nothing, son. Nothing.
I'm glad I did
bro.
That, bro. Glad I did.
You know what I mean? I thought you were going to.
I almost did, bro, but I go, nah, I've been around too long.
You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So he was getting people with that one. But yeah, so 2005, I'm back in Ironwood, level 3. Still with the homies, but, you know, a little older and a little more calm and not so willing to do whole time and all that no more. Trying to just enjoy my level 3 time and my freedom, you know, because being on the main line, that was like, for me, having life, thinking I'm never going home. Being on the main line was like being free. So I'm just there enjoying our little pizza sales and doing that little stuff that they were having right there. And at this time, my nieces and nephews are getting a little older. My mom's getting older. I'm getting older. So I really started like evaluating my life and myself and what did I want to be seen as in my family? What's my legacy going to be? So I started going to school. I had already gotten my GED earlier in the term, but I started going to college. I enrolled in college right there in 2008, and I ended up getting my associate's degree and staying out of trouble and just general studies. Most of my electives were in business. I'm actually 2 classes away from a business degree right now. If I go back to school, which I may at some point. But yeah, I just an associate's in general studies with an emphasis on business. I ended up getting my little degree and stayed out of trouble there long enough to now get level 2 points. So 2010 dorm living, bro. And that was one of the things I was tripping on. Like, do I really want to go? And I happened to call a friend of mine, and she had done time. Her cellie was a lifer, so she knew a little bit about lifers. And when I told her, I was like, look, they want to send me to level 2, and I'm not really sure if I want to go. And her advice to me was, go check it out. She's like, what this is this is a test. She goes, they want to see, can you function in this type of environment? Dorm living is the closest to the streets that you could get as far as having to interact with different people, different personalities, different races, different characters. Level 2 is just,
if you don't mind, was it a locker? Well, did you have a locker with a lock, or how did it work?
It ended up being a locker.
Bunk beds?
Bunk beds. 3 high. So obviously I decided to go. I took her advice, and what she told me, what stuck with me was like, they're going to see if you are ready to ever go home someday. She goes, so go check it out. She goes, if you don't like it, you know how to get back. You know how to raise your points and get back to a level 3. So I was like, all right, I went and checked it out. And yeah, bro, I walked in and it was like, whoa, 200 people in a dorm, buck wild. Everybody's running around. It's loud. It's noisy. Bunks are 3 high.
Are they segregated? Are the bunks segregated?
The bunks are, but the cubicle is not. You could be in your cube with different races, but the bunks are all the same race. So where I got assigned, I ended up on the very top bunk of a 3-man bunk with other southern raza right there. But even the middle bunk had somebody, bro. So it was crazy. The middle bunk, because there's 3. So even the middle one, there was a person there. They were stacking us 3 high.
That's gosh, bro. I wouldn't want to be in that middle one, bro.
Nah. So and what they would do was, normally it goes by seniority. Like even in cell living, if I get in a cell and I've been there longer, I get the bottom bunk. Well, with this 3 bunk, the agreement everybody made was the smallest person out of the 3 gets in the middle one. It's too hard for bigger dudes to be getting in there, tall guys or big guys to be getting in that middle bunk. So the smallest of the 3 gets the middle bunk. So yeah, bro, I started programming right there, level 2 style. Got adjusted to being in a dorm, got adjusted to noise, the amount of people, the constant movement. Night yard, getting night yard was cool. Being able to go outside and see the moon and the stars, which I hadn't seen for long time, was cool.
Was there a lot of locks in the socks and all that, stealing, or was it calm?
It was, at first, it was a little bit wild my first year there, but a lot of lifers started coming. And by that time, for a lifer to be on a level 2, you've been down like 20 years, 15, 16, between 15 and 20 or more years. So when you got a whole bunch of people there that have done that much time, it kind of gets calm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this is right around the time I got there in 2010. My first year there, 2011. Around 2011 is when there started to be some light for people. That's when I saw my first lifer walk out the gate. It was 2011.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
You guys, I want you guys to know something. For those of you watching, he got a YouTube channel. What's the name of your YouTube channel? This is an intermission, really quick. I
Right
want people
on.
because I want people to go there and follow him and really see what he's doing, man. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
So it's right there on the screen. Changed Man for Life. That's my YouTube channel. That's my YouTube handle. If people just go to Change Man for Life, you'll see the channel right there. I appreciate the plug. I'd appreciate very much people's support. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Um, my channel is about positivity. I don't really do a whole lot of prison stories on there. I do as it relates to me and my change and how I became the person I am today. But I really don't just be on there talking, a lot of stuff. There's other channels for that, and I don't knock those channels that do that. That's what they do. That's what they're cool with. That's their genre. I'm subscribed to some of them. You know what I mean? I mess with Gunner. I mess with Dubs. I mess with a few other people. But that's just not the type of content I'm doing. But I appreciate the plug. Yeah, go check me out, fam. I'm only at like 500 subscribers right now, so help me out. Help me get it up there.
That's
And
okay, bro.
not because and in my videos I talk about this. I'm not trying to become a famous YouTuber. I'm not trying to make no money. I'm just trying to get a particular message out there.
Yeah.
So that's what my channel's about.
Yeah, and most of them know my message, and his message is the same message. It's the same
Right.
message. So, with that, man, we're gonna have to break right here. We've been on about an hour and 10 minutes. Man. We're gonna have to break for part 2. Will be coming soon. You guys are gonna have to wait. But one thing I don't want you to go away with, man. There's something that happens later on in his life. Um, he meets somebody, and he meets somebody who really changed his life, man. And can you take about a minute just to tell us a glimpse of the end? Just a glimpse of the end of what happens later on, man. There's still a lot more to come in prison, but give us a glimpse of what happens at the end of the story.
So I met somebody. I was introduced to someone that really changed my life, and that person was Jesus. I ran into some cats there in the level 2 that I had been with before on level 4, dudes that were stone cold killers, dudes that were involved in the game. And they were different people. They had become Christians and they were going to church, and they invited me. And we'll talk more about it, on the part 2, how all that went down. But yeah, the reason I'm sitting here today, the reason I'm no longer behind bars, the reason why I'm married to a beautiful wife and have a great job in my own place, and all the blessings that I have after committing a murder and being in prison for 20 years, I attribute to God, to his hand on my life. And I'm really looking forward to telling everybody about that transition on part 2.